right here. What an awesome pass through the slot, onto the stick of Batherson. Kachuk in tight up, he got it and scores! Brady Kachuk wins it in overtime for Ottawa.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are joined here with Bruce Garrioch, of course, of Post Media. You also see him on every single TSN Center broadcast. Bruce, it's a pleasure to have you join the show. Thank you very much.
No problem, Brandon. Nice to see you. I hope you're having a good summer.
Well, likewise, hope you got some time there at the the condo up there at Lake Huron. Obviously I was at a cottage just the other day. Beautiful weather this summer. It's always great to go up there and get some fresh air,
Yeah, no, we've gotten a lot of golf in, and I'm just trying to get myself back in the mode to work. And we've got the CP Women's Open here next week with Brooke Henderson at the Hunt Club. So that will be something exciting that I'm going to cover, and then take another week off before really we hit the ground running, because I think the rookie tournament starts September 15th in Buffalo, and then basically it's go from there. And they've got an awful lot of road games during the preseason, so it's going to be pretty busy.
Yeah, they're going to the East Coast, right, for one of those games?
Yeah, they've got hockey. They're at two Hockeyville games, one in Gander, Newfoundland, and the other one is in St. John, New Brunswick.
That's awesome. It's going to be a great experience for this young team.
Yeah, because they're making up for Hockeyville games that were missed during the pandemic. So, no, there's going to be a lot of moving parts here, and got to figure out our travel schedule and how we're going to go about that, and with the way the flights are right now, but it'll all be fine, I'm sure.
Well, before we get into it, I just want to ask, obviously you're a seasoned reporter, going on the East Coast for these preseason type games, getting to cover it in different types of areas, especially in the East Coast where obviously you don't go too often. Is that really special? I feel like that's definitely like a perk of having the job, right?
Oh, no, it's absolutely special. I mean, I remember the first Hockeyville game which was held in Truro, Nova Scotia, between the Montreal Canadiens and the Ottawa Senators. And Roy Malacher was the president at the time, and he said the one thing we can't do, and it, because that's a television market for the Senators. He said one of the things we can't do is just go in there, show up, play the game, and leave. Yeah. So he insisted that they go the day before, they do some school visits on game day because it's a preseason game. Mm-hmm. Visit with some kids, see the area, and then play the game. And no, it's really special. I've been to Truro, Nova Scotia. I was in Lucan, Ontario, which is just outside of London, for that game. I went to there was one in Prince Edward Island where they weren't very good, but we had a nice couple of days in the Summerside area. So yeah, no, it's been it's a game that I think people look forward to. Yeah, you see the amount of work that goes into the community. There was one just outside of Hamilton that I didn't think was very special because basically you're in a suburb of Toronto. Yeah, but again, for the people who get seats and get the opportunity to see NHL players up close, it's good for them.
Also, on top of that, in the East Coast, there's actually a good amount of Sens fans there, more than you would think, especially since some of Ottawa has, they have roots there from their, original days. The AHL team was out there in PEI, for example, for a couple of years, I believe. So, they have a bit of a connection down there in the East Coast, and especially online on Twitter, you see a good amount of fans cheering for your Ottawa Senators from the East Coast. So I've always found that a little interesting. Also, when you go out west, I'm sure you know this, Bruce, of course, Edmonton, Calgary, Vancouver, there's always a good amount of Sens fans.
Yeah. So,
people always say there's no Sens fans, but I mean, you just watch these, especially the Western Coast games here in Canada, you'll see a good amount of Sens fans, like maybe Montreal, Toronto, here in Ottawa, for example. So they're a passionate bunch out there for sure.
Yeah, I went to Cabot Links on vacation. I'd say when it first opened, so probably 7 or 8 years ago, and the caddies all watch Senators games, right? Because they get them out there. So I had a good talk with some of the caddies out there with the Senators. You run into Ottawa fans everywhere you go. Even we're up at a golf course near a condo. and someone came up to me in the pro shop, and while we were waiting at a rain delay, and I had a good chat with him about Senators hockey. So yeah, there are a lot of Ottawa fans all around for sure.
Now let's jump into it, Bruce. There's some breaking news from Craig Morgan, the Arizona Coyotes insider. He's reporting anyways that last year Ottawa, they had a new ECHL affiliate that was out in Atlanta, the Atlanta Gladiators. That affiliation looks to be no more. It was a one-year affiliation, so it's not really a surprise that Ottawa and Atlanta are parting ways, but it does come as a bit of a shock this late into the offseason. So will Ottawa have to share an ECHL affiliate with another team, just kind of like what they did with Brampton a few years back with Montreal? Or is there any word on Ottawa finding a new affiliate in the ECHL?
Well, it's going to be interesting to watch because, they signed a one-year agreement. So clearly my guess would be they have something in place, and that the 1 year deal was probably just a crutch till they can go somewhere else long term. That's purely a guess on my part. I think one of the issues they had was getting players from Atlanta to Belleville, because let's be honest, that's not easy. And given the number of transactions they had last year, that made it, and COVID, that made it even more challenging. So my guess would be that they'll have to find an agreement with someone else, but I don't think that should be difficult for them to do. Those ECHL teams, they don't mind moving around their affiliations, and I'm sure they'll be able to get one probably in fairly short order. But like you say, at this point, Brandon, it's probably got to it's probably got to be a shared affiliation.
Yeah. Now, do you think there's any, just throwing ideas out there, do you think there's any, because especially since you said, the travel between Atlanta and Ottawa was not easy, which makes sense. Is there an affiliate close to Ottawa that would make sense?
Is there, I haven't looked. Is there a team in Upper New York State that?
I don't know.
Is Utica or not Utica?
I can check right
AHL, now. But I think there's some teams in Upper New York State that perhaps maybe make a little more sense, that are a drive away for the Senators, rather than being there was ECHL teams in the New Jersey area. That may make sense. Something that's a drive away from Belleville, rather than perhaps a flight, because that was always the issue with Atlanta, was you had to fly players there, and of course crossing the border was never easy.
And especially, look, one of the big reasons, I'm sure, bringing Belleville instead, moving the AHL team to Belleville from Binghamton, was because, look, Binghamton is close, Belleville is closer. You're going to drive 2 hours on the highway. It's a direct road right to the CTC. It just makes much more sense to have these affiliates much more closer to the Canadian Tire Center here in Ottawa, because when you have that, especially during COVID, when a lot of roster changes have to be done, having the affiliates in close proximity is obviously much easier. So like you said, we'll have to see. We'll put a pin on that for now, and hopefully within the next couple of weeks we'll have something more clear anyways, because like you said, it's a one-year deal. It probably makes the most sense that the Ottawa Senators had something in mind after this one-year affiliation contract, but we'll have to see. Hopefully it gets done soon. But I want to move.
I mean, there is a team in Trenton, New Jersey that might make a little bit of sense. Okay. There's a team in Columbus. I'm wondering if there's isn't there a team in St. John's, Newfoundland as well? I mean, that's a possibility as well.
The Growlers, or whatever.
Yeah, where maybe it's a little easier to get players from St. John's to Toronto than it was getting players from Atlanta to Toronto, for sure.
And honestly, that would be good too for, just building up the Ottawa Senator brand in the East Coast, right? Yeah. Adding on to what we were talking about before. So we'll see. But like you just said, there's clearly some options for Ottawa. So hopefully it's not too late. But I want to move on to something here, because we all know Ottawa has been looking to bring in some options forwards. Look, they've done that. Alex DeBrincat, Claude Giroux, these guys are stars in their own right. And then, of course, Ottawa also wants to bring in a top four defenseman. Now, we haven't seen that happen just yet. So what's the current situation there? What's the latest on Ottawa's hunt for a top four defenseman? Are they still looking to make a trade, maybe a Jacob Chikrin, free agency? What are they looking to do?
Well, I think ideally they'd like to make a trade, because I do believe at this point they likely have to shed some salary.
Yeah.
to a kind of a, probably if they're going to do something, Brandon, I would think it's got to be a dollar in, dollar out scenario.
Okay.
I think they're probably right now, without Alex Formenton and Erik Brannstrom signed, they're probably right about where they want to be salary wise going into this season. Now, as you and I sit here, we both know that they have spent an awful lot of time trying to move Nikita Zaitsev. They've been trying to move him since before the draft, and I think they've paid the $2 million bonus, and that will make him a lot more attractive to move. I guess the question is, can you find someone who's willing to take on that contract? Well, as you and I sit here, we both know that with a sweetener, the Arizona Coyotes will take on that contract. I guess the question is that they have to determine a couple things. Are they willing to? I have no question in my mind. They have shown interest in Jake Chychrun. I think they've been talking about him for a while. I think they've been talking about him for months. I think that Jacob Chychrun early on in this process was a little cool to the idea of coming to the Senators, but I think he's seen the moves of Alex DeBrincat and Claude Giroux and getting Cam Talbot. I don't think you can overlook that move.
Definitely not.
And getting Matt Murray moved on. And I think he's impressed by what Pierre Dorion has done here. And he sees this organization taking upward mobility. And look, Aaron says to me, well, they need a right shot defenseman. Well, he's a left shot defenseman who can play the right side. Exactly. So Brandon, that's not going to be a problem. Mm-hmm. I guess the question is, are you willing to pay the price? And
well, what's the price looking like right now? What's it looking like?
Pierre Dorion, I think, has looked at this, and just from talking to other teams who have been involved in this process, they believe that the asking price is 2 first-round picks.
Wow, yeah.
A prospect, and possibly another piece. And you look at what did the and I don't have my notes here, but I mean, what did Philadelphia give up for Tony DeAngelo? I mean,
wasn't that through free agency?
Well, no, I think they didn't. They?
Or it was like, you're right. It was like a second and third round pick or something.
Yeah, like
nothing in comparison to 2 first round picks. You're right. It was like a second and a third, I believe.
But if you look at what other teams were getting for defensemen around the draft, then they are within their rights to ask for whatever they want.
100%.
And if they want 2 first round picks, a prospect plus, then that's a big pill for the Senators to swallow.
Yeah.
Now, you know what you're getting. If you get Jacob Chychrun, you know you're getting a really good player that's under contract with a very reasonable contract for the next few years. He can help your team. He was a Norris. He got 39 first place votes for the Norris Trophy a couple of years ago. He's been a good player on a bad team, so you have to take that into account as well. But I guess what you have to decide is, are you willing to pay the price? And I just don't think at this time, Pierre Dorion can stomach it. And if you think about it, there's really only, from what I've been told, there are 4 teams who have been consistently chasing Jake Chychrun.
Yeah.
The Ottawa Senators, the Anaheim Ducks, Los Angeles Kings, and there's a 4th there, the Florida Panthers, pardon me. The Columbus Blue Jackets thought they had a deal for Jacob Chychrun at the NHL draft. The deal fell through. I'm not really sure what happened there, but they felt that they had a deal in place. The deal died, but I give the Florida or the Arizona Coyotes credit on one front in that they are not willing to bend on their asking price. And that's where what's the date today? August 12th, 13th, right?
We're on the 15th, yeah.
Okay, so today's August 15th. There's no sense of urgency on August 15th.
No.
For either.
None.
I talk to my buddies about this all the time because, my buddies are always like, well, they got to get Jacob Chychrun. Yeah, they don't have to get Jacob Chychrun on August 15th. Now, if you and I are sitting down a month from now and they still don't have that defenseman they want, and it's September 15th and camp opens on the 20th, well, then there's a sense of urgency. Right now, on August 15th, let's go. There's no sense of urgency. I mean, let's be honest. As soon as I hang up from the Zoom call, I'm going to head up to the golf course and hit some balls and hope they don't make a trade today. So I kind of look at it like that Pierre Dorion doesn't need to feel any pressure to make a deal right now.
Yeah.
And I think he's also been trying to slow down some of the expectations, Brandon, by saying if he goes into this, if he goes into training camp with this group of defensemen, he'll be fine. I don't think they want to go into training camp with Nikita Zaitsev. That's just my take.
Well, is there any other teams other than Arizona that might take on Nikita Zaitsev, or is it just Arizona? Because that obviously complicates things too. So is it just the Arizona Coyotes that have checked in on potentially eating up Zaitsev's contract?
I think there's probably 2 or 3 teams because as much as people don't like Nikita Zaitsev, the guy plays valuable minutes. And I don't know what happened to him last year. He just wasn't very good.
No.
I thought the years before he was fine. Some people have tried to connect him to Lou Lamoriello. I'm not sure the Islanders can take on that contract. I mean, if they really do have a deal in pocket with Nazem Kadri, which many believe they do, then they're going to have to, we've all been hearing that before they even sign that deal, they've got to get some salary off the books. So I think that the market for Nikita Zaitsev is limited. Yes. I think if you look at the market for Jake Chychrun, and I mentioned those 4 teams that have been consistently interested, the Arizona Coyotes really don't have any desire to help the Anaheim Ducks or Los Angeles Kings. Now, both of those teams can get this deal done. I'm not sure the Florida Panthers, given the deals they've made, are in a position to make a deal for Jacob Chychrun anymore. So I guess in a roundabout way, what I'm saying is I still think the Senators are the front runner for Jacob Chychrun.
That's great here.
Now,
great to hear.
And that's because they have the assets to make the deal. But do they want to pay that price? It's a heavy price to pay. If the asking price, and I'm just throwing out names here, okay? But if the asking price is a Jake Sanderson or a Ridley Gregg.
Right off the bat, I'm saying no with Jake Sanderson.
Or Ridley Gregg or, one of these guys, I don't know that I want to do that. But you are going to, if you want the certainty and you want a good defenseman, then you have to pay the price. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. Do I think discussions are active right now? I don't think they're probably very active right now. I think that it's in everybody's best interest to see where they are on to be honest, about September 8th or 9th. After Labor Day, things will heat up again. Yeah. I think the Senators studied the option of a guy. There aren't many right shot defensemen available, but
no.
I think the Senators studied the option of a maybe a PK Subban. I'm just not sure they want to go that route.
Do you think it's a high possibility?
No.
Big name. No, okay.
No, I don't see them signing him on a short-term deal. I'm just thinking of right shot defensemen that are available.
Well, how about Dobson? I've seen people speak about on Twitter, for example, from the Islanders, and we're talking about that might have to take some salary off the books.
Yeah, I haven't heard that name. I mean, okay. I would not. One thing I will not do is sit here and rule out anybody.
Yeah.
I like I said, don't think they're gonna go the PK Subban route, but who knows? I mean, again, like when you get to September 10th and you're maybe on a 1-year deal, I don't know. I just find it interesting that we'll see where this goes in the coming days. But I thought I think that the other thing they have to do is find out where Brannstrom is at. So
Yeah. And we'll definitely touch up on that in a couple of minutes. I just want to ask a couple more things in terms of free agency, just before we move on from it. Klingberg, for example, you brought up Anaheim as a team that might be a suitor or has been trying to get Jacob Chychrun. They just signed the biggest, defenseman in free agency, John Klingberg, sorry. So with Klingberg off the board, he's there in Anaheim. Personally, I might think that takes Anaheim out of the running for Chychrun. But more importantly, with Ottawa in on Klingberg,
how long did Klingberg? How long did Klingberg sign for? 1 year?
1 year, $7 million. So
okay, so
prove me contract basically.
Yeah, I think Ottawa, and they probably have a deal in pocket if he does prove himself.
Mm-hmm.
I think Ottawa was willing to talk about a 4-year deal with John Klingberg, but I just don't think it ever got to that point. Sometimes players are just bound and determined to go somewhere. And I kind of got the feeling with Klingberg, Brandon, he fired his agent. So clearly he wasn't happy with what was going on. And I think he probably just got to the point where he thought, you know what, I've got the opportunity to prove myself in Anaheim, earn a longer term deal. Paverbeek's a new GM. He's trying to make changes. It's a pretty good place to play from everybody you talk to. So that was kind of my sense, was that, and I think Ottawa was willing to go as long as 4 years with him.
What do you think the contract would have looked like? 4 years.
Well, I don't even know.
Yeah.
But I think they were willing to go a 3 to 4 year deal. One of the reasons I think there was some absolutely, some interest in Marino before he went to the
that's for sure,
to the New Jersey Devils, but I think they just weren't willing to go with that kind of term.
Yeah, I know. I heard similar things on John Marino, but it's the biggest attraction with Jacob Chychrun is that term. It's 5 years is a lot, 4 to 3 years, like you said with Klingberg too. That's what they're kind of looking at, because we have Stützle, we have Sanderson, we have these contracts coming up. People are looking at,
if all,
you know what I mean?
Well, it's interesting, Brandon, because if all goes as planned, you're going to have to pay Jake Sanderson in 3 years, right?
Yeah.
And so you want to be careful about how you do that. So you want to be careful about what you get yourself into. So,
so when
where it goes.
So when it comes to defensemen, it looks like Ottawa is likely going to make a trade, not a free agent signing. But in terms of free agency as a whole, do you think Ottawa makes another move here, or is it kind of like they're set, the roster's kind of in place, they got the pieces they want, and they're just going to see what they're at going into the preseason?
I could see them signing another depth forward or two, or perhaps bringing some guys on bring a couple of guys on a PTO.
Yeah.
I think they still wouldn't mind a little bit of depth on their third and fourth lines. I think they're fine. Obviously, we'll see where things go before camp. But I could see, like I said, I could see some PTOs for sure, Brandon, and see where that goes. And as far as, a big name, like I said to you earlier, I think they're probably at the top of their salary ceiling without those two guys signed. So I think there's still going to have to be some financial finagling that goes on. Let's just put it this way. I think you'd have to take some money out before you brought more money in.
It's very clear that, as I said, they need to move this guy off of the books to clear up some space for other acquisitions. So we'll have to, I think that's the biggest piece right now. We can all agree on that. And I have to ask this question before we move on to a couple of RFAs. Tyler Ennis, I think Sens Twitter would kill me if I didn't ask. Is there a chance that Enzo, the best to ever do it, comes back to the nation's capital on like a 1 year depth contract?
I just don't think he was very good last year. I mean, he's a fine guy and everything. I mean, I wouldn't rule him out coming in on a PTO.
He seems to love Ottawa, yeah.
Yeah, I just think, you have to be, and then look, DJ Smith's a big backer of him, but he also sat him quite a bit last year.
Yeah.
So that says to me that it's just maybe it's just not. Uh, I think he can do better, and I think he can do younger. Um, and I like Tyler Ennis. He's a fine veteran, but I'm just not sure that he fits into the mold anymore of what they need.
We'll move on now to a couple of RFAs. What's the word right now with Erik Brannstrom?
Well, I don't. I think that the talks there. I'm not sure they're close on a deal. I think that if you're Erik Brannstrom, what you're probably looking for is some security. Played a lot at the end of the year, might be, in my opinion, maybe overvaluing himself. So we'll see where that goes. Will that be done before training camp? I think it would be not very smart of Brannstrom to miss training camp. So I'm not sure where that one's going to go.
What kind of contract is he looking for?
Numbers, I don't know.
I mean, in term, like, is he looking for a multiple?
Yeah, see, I don't know. Like,
okay,
it would seem to me he's probably looking for multiple years. If one, and agents have always told me, Brandon, and I have done this for 30 years.
Yeah.
The agents have always told me that once you work out the term, the dollars and cents, they just kind of, it's a bad way to put it, but they kind of take care of themselves.
Yeah.
So I think that they're probably in a situation now where first thing they got to agree on is term. And I'm sure, as I said to you earlier, I don't think Pierre Dorion is in a mode where he wants to tie up a guy like Brannstrom for 7 years, and I don't by any stretch of my imagination think that Brannstrom is looking for that kind of term. Okay. But, I don't know if he's looking for a 3 or 4 year deal. I think Dorion may be sitting there. Well, why don't we just do a 2 year and see where it goes from there? So I have heard nothing lately on those talks. The last time I spoke to anyone at the draft, though, that I was told that the difference there was term, and obviously is look, we could hang up today and he could sign. And see where it goes from there.
And the other RFA, of course, is Alex Formenton. There's a lot, there's a cloud hanging over that right now, of course, due to an ongoing investigation with Team Canada, the 2018 World Juniors team. What's going on with that?
I've heard nothing on those talks. I don't know where they're at. I think we'll just have to, as you and I sit here today, I think it's probably best that we just wait that one out and see what happens.
Yeah, for sure. We have to see what happens with the investigation, and we'll just go from there, and we'll see what happens with that. Let's move on now with, we were kind of speaking about this or alluding to this with the top 4 conversation. Who's your dark horse to make the team next year? And personally, I'll just say mine real quick. It's Lassie Thompson. I don't know if Ottawa's going to make a move, especially if the asking price is 2 first-round picks for.
Yeah,
it's just not going to happen, especially after giving up a first, for Alex DeBrincat. But a guy like Lassie Thompson, he had some minutes in the NHL. He had some good minutes last year with Tom Chabot on that first pairing. He looked comfortable. He was able to, hold himself out there. Good two-way game, great outlet passes. I remember a great pass he had to Tyler Ennis, stretch pass, zone to zone against Anaheim, actually. So, he has a great ability to read the play in a two-way fashion. So I love Lassie Thompson, and I'm really, really hoping he makes the team coming out of camp.
Well, it's kind of interesting because this is probably a recency bias more than anything, but Ridley Gregg, I mean,
of course, yeah.
For what we've seen of him,
yeah.
What we've seen of him at the World Junior, it just looks like he's going to push for a spot on this team. I also think that the guy who the coach loves and who will get every opportunity in training camp is Angus Crookshank. Can I say one thing though? Yeah, I really like your choice of Lassie Thompson because, like you said, he's got a great shot. He's got a great shot. And to me, he's a smart player. And I think it's been interesting because I would have said that Jacob Bernard Docker was ahead of Lassie Thompson when he got to Belleville.
Yeah.
Well, I think that Lassie Thompson has surpassed Bernard Docker, but I think the guy we got to watch going into training camp, who I think maybe cannot be denied, and there was a reason he was a first-round pick or the third first-round pick of that October 2020 draft, was Ridley Gregg. So I think it'll be very interesting. That's where I'm looking forward to seeing the rookie tournament again and seeing where some of these guys are at.
By the way, absolutely love the rookie tournament. It's one of the best things about hockey, in my opinion. It's early September. School just growing up anyway. School just started. Kind of a bad mood there, but then you just turn on the TV and look. You're watching all your just recently drafted prospects play. I do want to say.
Can I say one thing?
Yeah, for sure.
I saw 3 guys dominate the rookie tournament I will never forget.
Yeah. Who?
One was Martin Havlat. He was the best player I've ever seen in a rookie tournament. The second was Marian Hossa, who was right there with Havlat.
Yeah.
And the third was Anton Volchenkov. And Volchenkov, just from being a power, like he was just a power in that rookie tournament. And that always said to me, if those guys go in and dominate a rookie tournament, then they've got a real good opportunity to be good NHL players for an awful long time. And I can say, look, we know Marian Hossa went on to have a Hall of Fame career, but
yes,
I think we can both say that Martin Havlat, injuries aside, and Anton Volchenkov both had pretty good NHL careers. Yeah,
fantastic careers. And just one last thing before I move on to the next part of our conversation, just on the dark horse conversation. And we're going to speak about Ridley Gregg at the end of the interview. Trust me on that. Ottawa's prospects at this World Junior tournament in the summer have been pretty good, to be honest with you. Roby Jarventi, especially with Finland. But I just want to speak quickly about Lassie Thompson again. I think a big reason why we've seen him jump over JBD in terms of depth rankings or prospect rankings is especially because of the experience he had overseas in Europe in pro hockey. I think when you have that experience as a defenseman playing against men, it just helps your development that much more. And I think he was just way more comfortable transitioning over to the AHL game. JBD, I think he's going to be an NHL player. I think he's going to be a fine player, but I think that definitely helps when you see this all the time. Look at Yaroslav Slavkovsky right now with Montreal. First overall, he was a stud out there in Europe, great in the Olympics. I'm telling you, Austin Matthews too. When you have these players go overseas and play against men, it really, and I mean, can't say this enough, really helps with their development. Look at college players too. Pinto, for example, it just playing against tougher, bigger, meaner competition always helps a prospect develop their game. Now, kind of want to switch the conversation over to the jerseys. I love jerseys. I got many. I'm obviously a huge Ottawa Sanders fan. If you couldn't tell, I'm a big Sens fan. So, have you heard anything on the reverse retro jerseys going into this season?
Well, you got to think they're coming, right? But now, I don't know. I haven't heard anything on a release date, but you have to think they're coming. They left that door open. So I think we're going to see it. I don't think there's any question about it. I just think you got to be a little bit careful though with all these keeping on switching your jersey. I love that they brought back the old logo. I really do.
Yeah.
But I never minded. I never minded the ones behind you on the Alfredson and Phillips either. I didn't mind that one either. I love, one of the things I loved was the red jerseys with that logo. Mm-hmm. I really thought they looked sharp, and I really thought I thought one of the best jerseys I've seen, and I didn't like it when I first saw it, was the outdoor game jersey they wore against the Montreal Canadiens.
Yeah,
I didn't like it when I first saw it, but when they put it on and wore it in a game, to me it looked outstanding. I love the O. I love the stylized O. I also like the heritage jersey that they did for the heritage jersey they did for the outdoor game, indoor outdoor game in Vancouver. I thought was outstanding. I really, so we're going to see some sort of, take off, especially with that logo. I'd love to see them bring the Peace Tower back for the 30th anniversary.
I proposed that in the past. That'd be cool.
Yeah. I mean, but that's just me. That's not based on any knowledge. I think there's some connection there with the Peace Tower. So I'd like to see that too.
What about the Senegoff? I mean, we've seen the 2D come back.
Yeah.
Where's the Senegoff?
Yeah, I don't know where you fit into that, right? Like, I don't know. Like I say, I think you also have to be careful. You don't get too many jerseys out there in circulation either.
Now,
I mean, what's one thing about the Montreal Canadiens? Rarely change their jersey.
Or Detroit too. It's a classic.
Yeah.
Classic. I'll move on now back to hockey. Just had to get that in there because I'm kind of a jersey guy. That was maybe a bit selfish of me, but I had to hear it from you because you usually break the Sens news. But I want to move on now back to the team. You mentioned earlier we can't overlook the addition of Cam Talbot. I completely agree with that. I think that might have been the biggest addition, arguably the biggest addition to this team in the offseason, based off of the fact that he's a star goaltender where most of the seasons in his NHL career, he's playing 60 plus games. So he's got the experience. He can play a lot of minutes. He can definitely have a big workload. And that tandem there with Cam Talbot and Anton Forsberg on not exactly the best defensive team last year here in Ottawa, put up fantastic numbers like .915 save percentage, for example, below 3 goals against average. So who's the starter going into next year? Or are we going to see a 1A, 1B situation, kind of like Vancouver less than 10 years ago?
Well, I honestly believe that they are going to push each other. And that, I really think that just based on experience, in my opinion, Cam Talbot is probably your number one going into training camp, but I don't think they'll name a number one. I think you're going to see 1A, 1B. And there's not nearly as many back-to-backs as there were last year. But I think we're in a situation where one of them is going to earn that, and one of them is going to carry the ball. And Anton Forsberg did a remarkable job down the stretch last year and through the last 2 years. So I think there will be some loyalty from one of the things I've learned about DJ Smith in his 3 years behind the bench is he's a loyal guy. Yeah. So I think DJ Smith, out of loyalty to Anton Forsberg, will say to him, "You're the number one going into training camp." But we'll see if that we'll see if Forsberg can in fact hold on to that job. I do think that Cam Talbot will have to beat him for that job. Yeah. But I'm like you. I just saw it. What a great acquisition!
Massive.
Yeah. Because I was never convinced about Philip Gustafsson that he was going to be an NHL starter. I'm still not, and I really do think when they had to decide between Gustafsson and Joey Decord, that I really think that Gustafsson caught lightning in a bottle. And good on him, because he ended up not going in the expansion draft. But
I miss Joey.
Yeah, I thought Joey Decord was a really good goalie for this organization.
Friend of the show. He's certainly putting up some solid numbers there with the Checkers, I believe, in the AHL. And with Philip Gustafsson, he's a goaltender for Minnesota that he's at the very least a backup guy, can play 20-30 games for you maybe, and he has some starter potential still there because he's young. So it's not a bad deal for Minnesota, especially for a team that had to shed salary. And for Ottawa, look, with Cam Talbot coming here, I had John Abbott of TSN on the show a couple of weeks ago, and he mentioned to me that Cam Talbot is one of the better goaltenders in the league for relationships with the other goaltender. He's very friendly, a very good locker room guy, is what John Abbott told me. So if anyone's worried about any turmoil or any issue between the two goaltenders, it doesn't appear to be the case. Now, a couple more questions here before I let you get to the golf course, Bruce. You mentioned before with the dark horse conversation that Ridley Gregg has had a fantastic, last year and this summer tournament in the World Junior Championship. He's been unreal. Had another goal the other day against Czechia for Canada. we've seen great performances so far, of course, from really Greg Ostapchuk, a third-round pick a couple years back from Vancouver. He worked his way into the Team Canada lineup on the third line. He also got Marilainen, the goaltender for Finland, Jarventi, who's got some power play minutes, Clevin with Team USA. There's a lot of good prospects right now in the World Junior Championship. Of course, Thomas Hamara, the latest prospect added to the pool with Czechia. A lot of great performances. What do you think about the Sens prospects at this summer's World Junior Championship?
Well, I think they've been excellent, and I think if you look at one thing we've always talked about is I think one of the things you have to do with your organization, and Trent Mann talks to me about this quite a bit, is you have to be able to push up, and I think what's happening in this organization, and I talked about, I think Lassie Thompson bypassing Jacob Bernard Docker. I think you have to look at guys pushing up and who bypasses who in the prospect pool. And I think what we're seeing right now is that the guys below are pushing the guys above them. And that's exactly what you want in every organization. And I think the organization, and I think we saw this at the draft, is that the organization is at a point where they got lots of prospects. They can now use those prospects to help get them better. They've got lots of draft picks. We saw them use those draft picks to help them get Alex DeBrincat. So I look at it that way, and I say, these prospects are establishing themselves. Now they have to carry it into the season. I find the whole Summer World Junior thing a little bit weird.
Certainly is, yeah.
But
it just things up a bit.
Yeah, but I do think that it sets a stage for these guys to then take this stuff into rookie tournaments to maybe push for a spot on the main team. And then, of course, some of them are bound for the AHL as well.
Last question for you, Bruce. It's a beautiful day. I don't want to keep you inside for too long. But the last question is Ottawa, they made some big moves. There may be some more moves in the future with that defense position, but goaltending secured. Forwards secured. Top six, probably one of the better ones in the NHL. Is the Ottawa Senators playoff bound next season?
I think they've got a great opportunity. And I think, the one team I think you have to look at that to me is kind of ripe for plucking is the Boston Bruins. Just with all the changes they've made, with all the injuries they have, the fact that they're not going to have Brad Marchand and their defense is thin right now going into next season, I think there's an opportunity there. The Florida Panthers got Jonathan Huberdeau, Matt Tkachuk, I know, but to me, they've made some very strange changes in the offseason, including their head coach. So I'm not sure about that. What's going to happen with them? I think when I sit here today, I think they got a great opportunity. But the other thing you have to realize is the Detroit Red Wings.
Oh, they loaded up too. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, Steve Yzerman spent some money. He spent some money on July 1. So I think that they got to get off to a good start. Looking at their schedule, they have to get off to a good start. We'll probably know better by the end of October, but just on paper, I think they've got a way better opportunity than we've seen in years and probably in 5 years. And so let's see where this goes. I'm optimistic they can make the playoffs. I can't give you a guarantee.
Well, I think I'm in the same boat right there, Bruce, but we'll leave it at that. Hopefully we'll get to speak in the next few months when we have a clearer picture and a lot of questions that we discussed in today's conversation. Bruce, why don't you tell the people watching this right now where they can read your stuff and follow you?
Well, I'm at Sun Garrioch on Twitter. You can follow me on the Ottawa Suns website, ottawasun.com. And, we're hoping to be back for another season of Question Period. So look forward to that as well.
Well, Bruce, looking forward to it. Thank you once again for joining us. And hopefully we'll speak soon. Take care.
Take care.